Okay, it's April 26th, Friday afternoon, and we're going to do chapter 14 of Inside Out, which is, think of it more as a book on tape than entertainment. It's the second in the white papers of the research papers I wrote for MUFON, and it lays the groundwork for my understanding of some of the events that are going to happen later. So if you're interested in that sort of thing, this is for you. If you just like hearing about what has happened on the farm, there may not be that much of that in here, but it's useful to the overall point of view of what's going on here because of the research into these writings. So I leave that up to you. Hope you like it. Chapter 14 is called What a Great Question. Oh, and also I may put some B-roll on here, trying to experiment with that as I go from not knowing anything about Da Vinci to knowing something about it. It's the program I use for posting these things. And then you won't have to just look at me. I'll show you some of the places. I hope to show you some of the places where all of this stuff happened. And I've done that once, but I need to have a gimbal so that the camera stays still, or I need to stand in one place and just pan very, very slowly or just let it run. So we'll see how that goes. Hopefully I'll get that up for you and add it in before this all shows up on YouTube. All right, so here we go. This is what I wrote in chapter 14. The next happening on the farm would occur in March of 2020. I didn't know that at the time, of course, and I was writing these 3 white papers. I'm telling you so you'll know there is more way weirder story time yet to happen. As it does, it will impact how I understand the writings. What I see now that I could not see before, literally from lack of experience. This may sound like I feel some people are probably more interested in the sightings and events rather than insight from the writings of some little-known mystical faith. Well, I do feel that. I could be wrong, but these writings are not the writings of whatever path most readers currently follow, are they? That is the reason for this book, after all. Don't skip over them, though. Some of what they have to say is extremely amazing and insightful if you stop and think about it as an experiencer of high strangeness. They explain the spiritual background that was coming into focus just in time. The white paper set a spiritual baseline for my understanding of how these writings related to my experiences. It's not a huge leap, given I had first encountered the writings back in 1971. But a leap it is because I still have very little ideological company, very few fellow travelers as I write this in 2024. When we get to the journal articles, they will reflect how my understanding evolved as my encounter experiences progressed. To keep chronological, we will next look at question 24. That's question 24 of the Great Questions Project list. And my answer set out on September 18th of 2019 in a paper entitled Non-Human Intelligences Are Here to Witness Humanity's Coming of Age. I could have titled it Spoiler Alert. After a few paragraphs of explanation, mostly reminding MUFON that they said they wanted to hear this, I began as follows. Quote, this is the quote from the paper I wrote. The human race, as a distinct organic unit, has passed through evolutionary stages, and this is not me writing, this is a quote that I used in the paper. Let me rephrase that. The human race, as a distinct organic unit, has passed through evolutionary stages analogous to the stages of infancy and childhood in the lives of its individual members, and is now in the culminating period of its turbulent adolescence, approaching its long-awaited coming of age. A candid acknowledgement that prejudice, war, and exploitation have been the expression of immature stages in a vast historical process, and that the human race is today experiencing the unavoidable tumult which marks its collective coming of age, is not a reason for despair, but a prerequisite to understanding the stupendous enterprise of building a peaceful world. That such an enterprise is possible, that the necessary constructive forces do exist, that unifying social structures can be erected, is the theme we urge you to examine. End of quote. By asking question 24, MUFON really asks, what is the guiding principle of the faith? Please explain. The next quote followed. Quote, Baha'u'llah's principal mission in appearing at this time in human history is the realization of the oneness of mankind and the establishment of peace among the nations. Therefore, all the forces which are focused on accomplishing these ends are influenced by his revelation. We know, however, that peace will come in stages. The next quote. In the letter of 29 July 1996, sent on its behalf in reply to an individual, the House of Justice wrote, clearly, the emergence of the lesser peace will be a gradual process, and its various stages will no doubt witness tests and setbacks as well as great advances. It will certainly include, however, a development of historic importance, the point at which the majority of the world's nation states will formally commit themselves to a global order comprising institutions and laws, and equipped with the means by which collective decisions can be enforced. While we cannot at present foresee the precise form that this development will take, much less the point at which it will occur, we recognize that it is a feature of the process of the lesser peace. End of quote. The lesser peace is the name given by Baha'u'llah to one of the important initial stages in the unification of mankind. The next quote. The revelation of Baha'u'llah, whose supreme mission is none other but the achievement of this organic and spiritual unity of the whole body of nations, should, if we be faithful to its implications, be regarded as signalizing through its advent the coming of age of the entire human race. It should be viewed not merely as yet another spiritual revival in the ever-changing fortunes of mankind, not only as a further stage in a chain of progressive revelations, nor even as the culmination of one of a series of recurrent prophetic cycles, but rather as marking the last and highest stage in the stupendous evolution of man's collective life on this planet. The emergence of a world community, the consciousness of world citizenship, the founding of a world civilization and culture, all of which must synchronize with the initial stages in the unfoldment of the golden age of the Baha'i era, should, by their very nature, be regarded, as far as this planetary life is concerned, as the furthermost limits in the organization of human society, though man, as an individual, will, nay must, indeed, as a result of such a consummation, continue indefinitely to progress and develop. End of quote. The following sentence was part of my comments following the quote above. This is part of my comments. Of relevance here is that the writings state that life exists beyond Earth, and those beings are also God's creatures. And there's a footnote for that. God sends messengers to all his creatures. There's a footnote for that. The universe is bound together by universal law. Footnote. Our species has evolved. footnote, the universe is infinitely ancient and there have been many cycles of life on Earth, with a footnote. Endnote, actually. The three papers were being written at the same time, and points brought forward in one often substantiated ideas in another. These ideas will be fully explained either in question 20 or by one or more of the journal articles that we'll read later. What this is hinting at, I feel, is that other civilizations go through the same coming of age. Because of, quote, many cycles, unquote, this may have happened on Earth before many times. If ET is good and knows what is happening, they may be like midwives at a birth. They will let nature take its course as much as possible, but may interfere to save the baby. So, what about this coming of age thing? How will we answer the question, are we there yet? Well, next quotation. The first sign of the coming of age of humanity, referred to in the writings of Baha'u'llah, is the emergence of a science which is described as that divine philosophy which will include the discovery of a radical approach to the transmutation of elements. This is an indication of the splendors of the future stupendous expansion of knowledge. Now I'm just going to interject here. This is not in the book. This is just something that occurred to me while I'm reading it. Tesla and some other great thinkers are saying that everything is just vibration, energy, and frequency. You, me, everything. So transmutation of elements fits in there somehow. Of course, we don't know how at this moment, do we? Okay, going on back with the chapter. Concerning the second sign which Baha'u'llah indicates to have been revealed in the Kitab-i-Aqdas, Shoghi Effendi states that Baha'u'llah, quote, in his most holy book, has enjoined the selection of a single language and the adoption of a common script for all on earth to use, an injunction which, when carried out, would, as he himself affirms in that book, be one of the signs of the coming of age of the human race. End of quote. That transmutation of elements issue is raised by the writings that maintain that science and religion must be in agreement, suggests to me that science should scan the holy text of all religions, looking for inspiration to help them ask better questions, per Einstein's statement about the importance of imagination. Also, a common language may make it easier for ET to be understood by Earthlings, or for Earth to formulate a response without the risks inherent in multiple translations. Next quotation. Further insight into this process of mankind's coming of age and proceeding to maturity is provided by the following statement of Baha'u'llah, quote, within a quote. One of the signs of the maturity of the world is that no one will accept to bear the weight of kingship. Read that again. One of the signs of the maturity of the world is that no one will accept to bear the weight of kingship. Kingship will remain with none willing to bear alone its weight. That day will be the day whereon wisdom will be manifested among mankind. The coming of age of the human race has been associated by Shoghi Effendi with the unification of the whole of mankind, the establishment of a world commonwealth, and an unprecedented stimulus to the, quote, intellectual, the moral, and spiritual life of the entire human race, end of quote. Those are a few ways in which we will know we are getting there. The point is that this has never been done since the flood. So, and I mean the Great Flood. So if E.T. came here to watch something important, from the perspective of the writings, this would be it. I concluded the paper with this idea. Perhaps they don't intervene because there are no shortcuts, and the lessons to be learned in coming of age are only learned through experience. Thus ended the paper. My big idea was brewing regarding our commonalities with E.T., the unity of mankind. Mankind. What could it mean? And that's the end of chapter 14. So I guess we'll leave that there, and I hope I get some B-roll done and put in here. We'll see how much I get and how good I am at inserting it. Thanks for being here. I'll see you next time.